All right. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Jessica Ballinger. I am a 2010 graduate of the law school. I'm an administrative law judge with the Division of Hearings and Appeals, and I am the proud president of the Law Alumni Association. And it is my great pleasure to say welcome to the Marquette Law School Annual Alumni Awards ceremony here in the best law school building in the country, Ray and Kay Eckstein Hall. We'll take that applause. I think as everyone here can see, our students here at Marquette are most fortunate to have such a beautiful and welcoming space to study the law. So this is always a special evening, and we are pleased that you have taken the time to join us as we recognize these four inspiring Marquette lawyers. The individuals being honored here tonight give meaning and substance to the phrase Marquette lawyer. They have responded to the call to do more, not only in their legal careers, but also in their aspirations to do more for others. Mark, Pat, Isioma, and Andre, they are the difference, and I know that you will enjoy hearing their stories. Before we get started, a couple of housekeeping items. Please. We all see a number of cell phones. Make sure that your cell phone is silenced for our event. We appreciate that. And at this point in time, it is my great honor and pleasure to introduce the 24th president of Marquette University, Dr. Michael Lovell. We are privileged to have him joining us here this evening, and please help me in providing him a very warm welcome. Dr. Lovell.
Well, thank you, Jess, and I want to welcome all of you to the 2023 Law School Awards, an annual event that we really celebrate the achievements of this year's Law School Award recipients. And I was just joking around with Mark that we have about 9,000 law student grads, and these awards don't happen by accident. It's because of the achievements that our alumni go out in the world and do amazing things. I just want to say how proud we are of our law school and our graduates. First, I was actually with the local CEO this morning, whose son is graduating from the University of Iowa. And his son, they toured all over the country. And his father told me that, number one, we have the best law school facility in the country. And I think we can all agree to that. Secondly, he said that our law school staff were nicer than any other school that they visited. Yeah. So it's not just what we do for our students and the way we train them. Our law school also gives a great national prominence to Marquette University. We have some very innovative programs. The law school Paul's is known nationally. Our sports law program is one of the best, if not the best, in the country. Our Lubar Center for Public Policy is something that is the envy of other law schools and other universities across the country. And it makes me very, very proud to see innovation happening within our law school year after year. And it's also, for me, the most important part is we're providing students opportunities that I know that will help them be successful when they leave our walls. And as you see tonight, when they do leave our walls, they make a huge impact on society and the world. And I have two favorite days of the year. My first favorite day of the year is graduation, because we are sending out several thousand Marquette graduates into the world that are going to make it a better place. But my second favorite day of the year is our Alumni Awards, because we are seeing the impact that what a Marquette education does in the world and what great people we have that graduate from our university. So Mark, Patricia, Isioma, and Andre, please know how proud we are of all of you and what you're doing to make the world a better place and the impact you're having in the lives of so many. So finally, I have the great honor of introducing someone who really needs no introduction. And I was thinking, I have to verify this, but I'm pretty sure that Joe Kearney is the second longest standing law school dean in the country. He's been in this role for 20 years. Yeah. And, you know, he's a nationally renowned scholar. Everyone who knows Joe knows how smart he is and what an impact he's made on the field of law. But what makes me so proud of him is his commitment to our students and continuously to evolve the law school to give them an education and opportunities for service and experiential learning that sets them on a path for success from the day that they leave our university. And so, without further ado, please help me welcoming Joe Kearney, the Dean of the Law School.
Thank you, President Lovell, for your leadership of our university and your very kind words. And thank you also to Jessica Bellinger for your service this past year as President of the Law Alumni Association Board. And all of us extend our thanks to all of you for being here this evening. Tonight, we gather to celebrate the ideal of the Marquette lawyer. We proceed primarily by presenting awards to 4 specific individuals, among the many worthy 4 exemplars. To be sure, we start the awards ceremony by looking primarily, if briefly, to the future. We have the opportunity, once again, to announce the Ralph J. Heuris Law School Citizen Award. This remembers the late Ralph Heuris, a member of our class of 1941, and is annually underwritten by the Heuris Foundation, led by Ralph's law partner, Bill Farrell, class of 1968. The award provides scholarship support to a student entering his or her second year at Marquette Law School. We present it to someone who, even in his or her first year, has added to the spirit of the law school by demonstrating a broad spectrum of qualities, including professionalism, a willingness to help fellow students, involvement in the law school and broader community, and other indicia of the Marquette University mission. Drawing on nominations by first-year students, the selection committee of my colleagues has chosen Nancy Catani for this year's Heuris Award. Nancy, would you please come up here for a moment? Nancy is a most engaged law student whose service and collaboration are notable. Even before law school, as an undergraduate at Marquette, she volunteered with the Milwaukee Justice Center, of which the law school is part. And this past year, she has volunteered with numerous pro bono projects, including not just the MJC, but the Eviction Defense Project, to give only 2 examples. Consider also the words of a fellow first-year student. My motivation for nominating Nancy comes largely from her unfailing kindness and willingness to help her classmates. From everything from checkmark logistics to class topics to advice on challenging conversations, she is a go-to for many who seek advice from a level-headed, knowledgeable, trustworthy peer. I know that many other students who also have gone to her and received the same warmth and kindness. So Nancy, kudos to you on the Heuris Award. Congratulations also to Twinkle Dutta and Claire Griffith, who, as our Heuris Award finalists, will receive a partial scholarship. They too impressed both nominating classmates and the selection committee with their personal qualities, professional characteristics, and care for their colleagues. In fact, I want to commend all of our students for what they are doing to help us build the Marquette Law School community and the profession. You impress and inspire us. Thank you. With that nod to both past and future, let's turn squarely to the present, the ongoing careers of 4 Marquette lawyers whom we honor this evening. We begin with the Charles W. Mentkowski Sports Law Alumnus of the Year. Chuck Mentkowski was very much of Milwaukee, a graduate of South Division High School, he would proudly tell you. Yet he was especially supportive of the innovative sports law program, created in 1990, and no program at Marquette University Law School attracts students from across the country more than sports law. Andre Salhab was such a student. Andre came to us in 2009. It was a trick to recruit him to Milwaukee. Yes, he had been attracted to the law in one sense or another from an early age. He told us this: "For some reason, I always wanted to do something in the field of law. First, I wanted to be a cop, which was probably because I loved donuts and thought I would have the opportunity to eat donuts all day. Then, I think we may take it that Andre had realized that he was mistaken about police work. I wanted to be an FBI agent because television and movies made it look so cool. Then, still at a young age, perhaps about to enter middle school, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. Yet being a Marquette lawyer is not top of mind for most people in Florida. Indeed, even as he was graduating from college at the University of Florida, our honoree was inclined toward attending law school in the state. I really wanted to stay in Florida to be near family and friends, he recalled to us. A combination of scholarship aid from Marquette and, quote, a long and difficult conversation with my parents made the difference. Boy, am I happy for that conversation and the decision, was his closing comment to us on the point. Andre certainly embraced the opportunities as a student here, both in the general curriculum, where he especially remembers Professor O'Meara's criminal law course, and in the area of sports law. Among his fellow students and others, he was a warm and well-liked individual. Please know that I have some reluctance in saying was. In the decade since his graduation in 2012, Andre has been a frequent presence back here for recruiting events and panels for students. I say back here because Andre returned to Florida upon graduation, working initially with Disney in a couple of different capacities, including in the business affairs department at Disney's ESPN Wide World of Sports complex. This proximity in Orlando and something of a tip from Professor Paul Anderson in Milwaukee led Andre in 2017 to a position in the General Counsel's office with the Orlando Magic. In fact, under the leadership of another Marquette lawyer, Naya Sturman of our class of 2003, who is the team's General Counsel, there are now 4 Marquette lawyers in the Magic's General Counsel's office, to say nothing of the other Marquette lawyers who have been working for the 2 professional soccer leagues teams in Orlando. I'm reasonably certain that we have no one working for the Miami Heat. Yet it is on Andre we focus for this award. And I know from conversations with them that his colleagues, such as Naya, are delighted for him. They regard him as a relentlessly positive presence in their organization, even beyond his skills as a lawyer. Andre does not limit this positivity to his old school or those with whom he works professionally. He has found meaning or the opportunity to serve in programs such as the Magic of Mentoring, a partnership with my brother's keeper, Orlando, that pairs young high school students of color with minority mentors to give the students an inside look at the sports industry and the possibilities that might be ahead for them in the world. Andre, would you please come forward to the center of the stage as I conclude? Our purpose in presenting an award is not to recount anyone's full roster of professional accomplishments or personal characteristics, but rather to present an example of an alumnus who embodies Marquette Law School's spirit and ideals. In barely a decade since returning to Florida, you have served the law school, and more particularly, your successors as students. You have grown professionally into a trusted and valued colleague in a major sports franchise's general counsel's office, and even apart from your personal success with your family, you have engaged with a number of those in the community who might especially benefit from your service. We are proud of your work as a Marquette lawyer, far from home, as we see it, and ask you to please accept the Charles W. Mentkowski Sports Law Alumnus of the Year Award.
Gotta find it. Good evening, everyone. I'm incredibly humbled to be here today to receive this amazing award. From a young age, I knew that I wanted to be a lawyer and eventually realized that I wanted to do it in the field of sports. I am forever indebted to Marquette, and more specifically, the Marquette Sports Law Program, for the knowledge and values that I gained while in attendance. From the professors to the sports law curriculum, the education and experience you receive at Marquette is second to none. I would like to thank those individuals in my life that without whom I would not be in this position today. I would like to start by giving thanks to God, without whom this would not be possible. Thank you to my amazing wife, Mallory, and to my kids, Hayden and Olivia, who are not here today, but they are with my mother-in-law, so thank you for her for watching them today. Thank you to my parents, Christopher and Carol Salhab. Thank you for instilling values in me that help me to succeed and to continue to push myself in my career. Thank you to my incredible sisters, Andrea and Crystal, who's in the crowd today. Thank you for coming. And Ashley. Thank you to Nye Sturman, Denez Lockhart, and Logan Denny, who were not able to make it tonight, but surprised me last weekend. I will say surprised. They had get-ups and everything on the plane, so I wouldn't know that they were on there. Quite spectacular. But I thank you for them and all they've done for me in my life. Thank you to the professors who are responsible for this amazing program, Paul Anderson, Matt Mitten. Without you guys, this program wouldn't be what it is today. So thank you, and I hope to continue to be part of this amazing program. And a special thanks to Christine, Jess, and Dean Kearney for putting this amazing event together. Thank you again for this amazing honor, and I will cherish it for the rest of my life.
Thank you, Andre. The next recognition remembers my great predecessor, the late Dean Howard Eisenberg. Even beyond his deanship, Howard served the profession, the community, and especially the incarcerated. As reflected in his at least locally famous speech, "What's a nice Jewish boy like me doing in a place like this?" Dean Eisenberg's ethic of service made him a comfortable fit at this Catholic Jesuit university. Isioma Nwabuzor is this year's recipient of the Law Alumni Association's Howard B. Eisenberg Service Award. A 2015 alumna, today she is Associate General Counsel and Assistant Corporate Secretary at Modine Manufacturing, a Fortune 1000 company based in Racine. This follows a position at Robert W. Baird and has enabled Isioma to continue to embrace so many organizations here in Milwaukee. Yet let's go back a bit. There may have been a brief time that Isioma wanted to be a fashion designer, but for the most part, she tells us, I always wanted to be a lawyer. In one sense, she says she was born to it. I come from a long line of lawyers on my maternal side, with my late maternal grandfather being a Nigerian high court judge and the first lawyer from his ethnic group in the country, and my late maternal step-grandmother being Nigeria's second female judge. So perhaps there was some foreordainment. Yet that is, of course, only to tell part of the story, and to suggest any inevitability about Isioma's life path or to imply that it was well paved would be most misleading. In fact, though having arrived to the United States at 18 months old as an undocumented immigrant, as Isioma herself relates, simply later attending Marquette University as an undergraduate was a challenge for her. Working 24 hours on weekends as a manager at a local McDonald's in the midst of a full undergraduate course load will give you a small flavor of it. None of that stopped Isioma from broad engagement with Marquette University, with her adoptive hometown of Milwaukee, and with opportunities beyond. We saw it here at the law school in a number of ways, and since graduation, her service has expanded even as her professional duties have grown. Here are only a few examples. Board member, YWCA Southeast Wisconsin. Community facilitator, Frank Zeidler Center for Public Discussion. Liaison of the Association for Corporate Counsel, Wisconsin chapter, to our Summer Youth Institute. Board service or other engagement with organizations such as the Legacy Foundation, Temple Milwaukee Emerging Women Leaders, and Rotary. We at Marquette get our share of Isioma, and it is most valuable. As she puts it, giving examples from the Institute for Women's Leadership to programs of the university's Office of Diversity and Inclusion. Every time Marquette calls, I answer. And the answer is always an emphatic yes. A couple of years ago, in giving an award to a Marquette lawyer, who is now the Chief Justice of the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and who is a native of Michigan, I noted that one of the things that a great university does is to attract to Wisconsin individuals who grew up elsewhere, some number of whom then are inspired to stay and to serve the region and the state. This year, to make a different point, let me quote a letter from another Marquette lawyer who is about to be the newest member of that same court. Isioma was that judge's student in a course here, and our correspondent, present tonight, makes rather the opposite point. Quote, Isioma's personal and legal capabilities could lead her to opportunities outside Wisconsin, yet she has chosen to stay and to give back to the city of Milwaukee, where she grew up after immigrating at a very young age. This, too, is something that great universities do. This university thus serves individuals who have grown up here and gives this region, this city that is our home, a better than average chance of retaining them as educated and contributing workers and public citizens. I admit to some small delight that there is no inconsistency in both those forms of contributions by the university, and thus, in this sense anyway, no difference in the views of the Marquette lawyers who are about to be fellow justices of the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Isioma, would you please come to the front? Isioma, each year, the Law Alumni Association Board selects for an award an individual whose involvement in the profession, whose engagement in the community on behalf of others, whose ethic of service recall the legacy of Dean Eisenberg and reflect the mission of Marquette University. Whether it is through the Dreamer Next Door Foundation, a nonprofit that you started, and its scholarship program, or in any number of other ways, only a handful of which I have touched upon, you have shown yourself a most worthy recipient of the Howard B. Eisenberg Service Award. We hope that you will accept it.
A quick anecdote as I'm pulling up my comments here. I actually went to high school with Attorney Thomsen's son, Jens Thomsen. I went to Rufus King High School, small walkie, full circle moment. And I just want to comment, I don't want to, steal your thunder, but I am sure he would be absolutely proud of you. So it's an honor to share the stage with you. Much of who I am today began on this campus as an undocumented immigrant, starting undergrad here in 2008 and law school in 2012. Marquette has helped me turn my test into a testimony, and it is only right that I spend my entire life paying it forward. Thank you to God, because I am nothing but a vessel. Nothing that I do is of me. It is all because of God. Thank you to my parents, who are the epitome of sacrifice. I am and I can because they are and because they have done. So thank you. Thank you to my siblings, who are just as awesome. If you know anything about them, they are just as awesome in their own right. To my best friend, who flew in all the way from Las Vegas to be here. My friends, who are just like family, colleagues, sorority sisters, and everyone who came to support today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Last but certainly not least, from the bottom of my heart, thank you to the institution that is Marquette University and Marquette Law School. I cannot thank you enough for seeing me. Thank you. I recently came across a George Washington Carver quote that states, "No individual has any right to come into this world and go out of it without leaving behind them distinct and legitimate reasons for having passed through it." This is all that I endeavor to do in all that I do with all the organizations that I serve, and I pray that I continue to make you all proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Isioma. The Law Alumni Association's Lifetime Achievement Award goes annually to an alum who has long embodied and advanced the university's mission of excellence, faith, leadership, and service. It is an honor to present this year's award to Patricia McGowan of our class of 1989. Pat is recently retired after a career as an assistant district attorney for Milwaukee County, a local prosecutor. Here's how she has described her choice. Having grown up in Milwaukee as a product of the infamous 53206 zip code and the Milwaukee Public Schools, attending law school, or college for that matter, was not the norm. I had a responsibility to help my community. When I was growing up, those in my neighborhood complained of unfair treatment in the criminal justice system. The only way I knew to create impactful change was from the inside of that very system. Becoming a prosecutor gave me the unique opportunity to make daily decisions that would affect the lives of victims, defendants, children, and families who found themselves interacting with our criminal or juvenile justice system. What I liked best about being a prosecutor was having the ability to offer hope to victims and children who had not chosen to be involved with the court system. And what a difference Pat made. Whatever the law school's contribution, there is little doubt that much of her approach or skill came independently of her direct legal education. One nominator, a few years ahead of her both in law school and thus in becoming an ADA, recalls meeting our honoree, quote, when she was still a law student and intern. I first recall Pat, this other Marquette lawyer wrote us, with a clipboard and pen in hand, interviewing the young mothers coming into the courthouse for the purpose of child support enforcement. She had to question them about sensitive matters, seeking to gain information about the paternity of children, and I was so impressed by how she treated the mothers with dignity and respect. In the nature of a subsequent 3-decade career in a busy prosecutor's office, Pat's career was varied, and it included, for example, service as a community prosecutor. A nominator remembers Pat's wearing a bulletproof vest as she worked in the community. Yet, in a sense, though rising to a leadership position, our honoree did not go far from her student days. She spent most of her long career protecting the most vulnerable from child abuse and child neglect, children in need of protection or services, CHIPS, as our state's law characterizes the sphere. And here she brought a level of compassion and dedication that has few parallels. That is not my characterization, but rather that of a trial judge in children's court who considered it a privilege to have Pat as the prosecutor in the courtroom during the judge's initial years on the bench and Pat's final years before retirement. The judge recalls that, where appropriate, Attorney McGowan infused her own life circumstances into her arguments and recommendations to give greater understanding and impact to those present in the courtroom. Making oneself vulnerable is not something that many are willing to do in a court of law. And yet, if it could make a difference in the life of a child, Attorney McGowan would do so. Another judge notes that Pat's ability to speak to and speak about young people of color in an extremely nurturing way resulted in more successful outcomes for our court operations and was more respectful and productive for our youth and their families. So Pat was a skilled prosecutor, one who struck that difficult balance of appropriately apportioning toughness and compassion. She also has been an extraordinary mentor for others in the legal system, and the DA's office in particular. Her career choices were purposefully aligned, a nominator relates, so that others, especially young people of color with unbelievably tremendous roadblocks in their lives, have a smoother path forward. Pat has heeded the truth emanating, for example, from the words of Ralph Waldo Emerson, this nominator wrote, "Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail." Her mentorship extended throughout the office and beyond. One colleague recalls that Pat's door was often shut. Lest that seem a strange compliment, the colleague explains, "That's because I and many others over the years were in there with Pat, being listened to and counseled." This colleague notes that to that work, Pat brought not only empathy and experience, but also education and theology. She recently earned her master's degree in theology after years of study. Pat's strong and continuing ties with Marquette University are also noteworthy. I once heard a wise alum, who himself served as a law school dean for a time, say that there are 1,000 different ways that an alum might serve his or her law school. I might have thought this somewhat hyperbolic, but for my knowing alumni such as Pat. Encouraging prospective students, particularly, but not exclusively, men and women of color, to apply to Marquette Law School. Recruiting them to attend once they have applied and been admitted. Contributing directly to fundraising efforts. Publicly encouraging others to support the Eckstein Hall building project. Helping persuade busy alums to join the Law Alumni Association Board. Helping persuade one of those alums also somehow to find time to teach here as an adjunct professor. And, while not most, but also perhaps not least, being willing to be teased for being a walking billboard for Marquette when she leaves her house decked out in blue and gold. Pat, would you please come forward? I said at the outset that our Lifetime Achievement Award should go to someone who especially has embodied the university's mission of excellence, faith, leadership, and service. I would never seek to vary from that statement and those words, not least because we carved those 4 words in stone above the fireplace in the Aiken Reading Room. But one other word also stood out in the numerous letters that I had the privilege to read. Quote, "She is a resilient woman with a habit," all good words so far, but not the one I'm after, "of displaying gratitude." This is so true, and please know that we are grateful to you, and we will be all the more so if you will accept the Law School Law Alumni Association's Lifetime Achievement Award.
I cannot tell you how honored I am to be receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award from Marquette Law School. For many years, I rode the number 12 bus, and it turned on 12th in Wisconsin. And I saw Marquette University, and I used to say, I'm going to go to school there. And I did. I am thankful to the law school, Marquette University, and to the Law Alumni Board. But most of all, I'm just thankful for God just putting me in this position. There is nothing that I could have done without him. And as Dean Kearney said, I grew up in 53206, and we've all not heard many positive things about 53206, but I want to tell you some good does come out of 53206. I never would have thought that not only coming out of 53206, but being a teen mom would have put me in a position to be able to help so many people. The ideals of Marquette University are excellence, faith, leadership, and service. And through my life, there have been many people who've been alongside me to help me to exhibit those principles. The first person, and there are a lot of them are here tonight, the first person I'd like to thank is my son, William. As a teen mom, having him made me focus and figure out what I wanted to do and put me on a track to lead me to where I am today. And secondly, I'd like to thank my mom, who came all the way from Mississippi, her and my sister Sylvia, to share this moment with me. And also my sweetheart, who came all the way from Ohio. I want to thank you all for just supporting me and loving me through all of my ups and my downs. And I also want to thank the rest of my family who is here with me. But one of the people that I want to thank was at the beginning of my Marquette journey. I was a member of the Educational Opportunities Program, affectionately known as EOP. So for all of you who are EOP alum or part of EOP, thank you so much for being here. And if you're part of the Black Alumni Association or the African American Alumni Association, thank you so much for sharing this time. But as a part of the EOP program and being an undergrad here at Marquette, I took a class called Legal Processes. And that is when I decided I wanted to be a lawyer. That class was taught by none other than Lindsay Draper, who has been a friend and a mentor from the time I met him and to this day. So thank you, Lindsay, for being here and sharing this with me. I also like to thank the District Attorney's Office, E. Michael McCann and John Chisholm, for giving me the opportunity to serve the people of Milwaukee County for so many years. Also, part of my experience in the District Attorney's Office was shared with two of my close friends who are here with me tonight, who were also, one was a classmate of mine, Irene Partham, and the other was a year ahead of us in law school, but became a dear friend and is a dear friend to this day, and that would be Supreme Court Justice Janet Protasiewicz. And also thanking other people who came to share with me. My friend Elaine Richards, who came all the way from California. Thank you, Elaine. My friend Tracy, who surprised me and came in. I just saw her when she walked in the door tonight. Came in from Washington, D.C. And my friend Sandy, who came in from Ohio. And I'd also like to just thank the rest of my tribe. That being Christ the King Church, and more specifically, my pastor, John Wesley McVicker Sr., and his lovely wife, Miss Marilyn McVicker. Thank you so much for being here. And to the finer women of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, thank you so much for sharing in my life. And I would like to thank also the my spiritual direction class. It is the Awaken/Journey program. Thank you, ladies, for being here with me and sharing in this experience. And my life group through Elmbrook Church, and my Burn family that keeps me on track working out 5 to 6 days a week. I want to thank them as well. And last but not least, a group that's near and dear to my heart, home at Hope Street, and Shechem. I would like to thank my family from there. That's one of the places I volunteer. I sit on a board, and it is an organization that helps people all over the city. And so I just like to thank them also for sharing this experience. One of the things that we learn at Marquette is how to be the difference. And I challenge each of you as you leave here tonight to be the difference in everything you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat, and congratulations. Our longest standing award is for our Alumnus of the Year. It is an honor to present this year's award to Mark L. Thomsen of our class of 1987. Cases come to our justice system overwhelmingly in one of two ways. We have already noted the cases brought by the district attorney's office. Scarcely less important, it seems to me, are cases on the civil side, that is, those brought by a lawyer for plaintiffs. That they tend to seek money, damages, as our profession characterizes the typical relief in a civil action, is only because of our imperfect world. That is, these cases, too, are about justice. And anyone who desires a just society, or simply a peaceful one, should have a strong commitment to the work of the plaintiff's lawyer. Mark Thomsen has a strong passion for justice. It's not a sufficient criterion, but it is certainly a necessary one for being a great trial lawyer, as Mark is. How this passion was born in Mark, I would not have the temerity to say. But I certainly may note that Mark's path to law school was atypical, as one of his nominators noted. Quote, Mark has strong Midwestern roots, having been born in Nebraska, this alumnus noted. But he grew up in Nigeria until he was 12 years old, as the son of educational missionaries. He dropped out of high school at age 17 and went to work at a steel mill in East Chicago, Indiana for 8 years, where he also served as a union representative. It was honorable, even important work, but it was not a good long-term career choice. As anyone knows who is familiar with the fate of the steel mills on the southeast side of Chicago or next door in northern Indiana in the 1980s. Upon the steel mills closing in 1984, Mark and his wife Grace moved to Milwaukee, not quite a steel town, but perhaps with some similarities, where he enrolled at Marquette University Law School. Here Mark learned not to forge steel so much as to mold the law, and for a purpose. His own recollection begins with a name familiar to generations of former Marquette law students, to Marquette lawyers, that is. Quote, when I was in my first year of law school in 1984, Professor James Giardi was teaching torts. I fell in love with the idea that the common law creates individual rights and causes of action to protect people. To work for people, enforce and protect their rights while expanding the scope of justice and fairness has been and remains pure joy. Of course, that takes us directly from his 1L year to today, and we want to spend some time in between. During his more than 35 years as a practicing lawyer, Mark has been a plaintiff's lawyer. Personal injury claims, for example, car and truck accidents, civil rights claims, Section 1983, if you will, medical malpractice cases, and any number of other sorts of cases. He is quite prepared to settle a case if his client and he think that to make sense. He is equally prepared to go to trial. As I tell my own students in civil litigation courses, it's hard to settle a case on fair terms unless one is willing to be put to his or her proof. It is hard to get a defendant to put money on the table unless there is the prospect of being ordered by a jury and then the judge to pay more. I have already, just a few minutes ago, given my non-apology apology for discussion of damages. A case for money is substantially synonymous with the term action at law, as students know. Yet with Mark, in particular, it is sometimes abundantly clear in other ways also that these cases are about seeking justice. One of his nominators points, especially, if by way of example, to the Sterling Brown case, the incident, we may call it here, between police officers and a Milwaukee Bucks player. This correspondent, an African-American judge, that is relevant, suggests that, quote, Mark litigated this high-profile case and resolved it in such a way that Milwaukee is now ahead of the curve when it comes to discussing race and policing. When approaching this case, Mark focused on what was most important, the value of acknowledging an affront to human dignity with the request for an apology. And it is, I would add, among the things that the settlement included. I frequently tell our students that lawyers are almost necessarily public citizens and that much of their professional work advances the public interest. With Mark, this goes beyond the day job. I could cite his work as a board member of the Ascension Lutheran Church Endowment, or note his service on the board of directors of the Southeast Wisconsin Professional Baseball Park District. But where's the fun in that? Since 2016, Mark also has been a commissioner of the Wisconsin Elections Commission, the agency created by the Wisconsin legislature to maintain the integrity of voting in state and federal elections in Wisconsin. I don't know what Mark expected when he accepted the appointment or served as the WEC's first chairperson, but let's just say that this has become public service of the greatest importance. Whatever one's substantive political views or affinities or affiliations, one should want men and women of high character and, yes, toughness to lead our election system. And it is this service that provides my observation concerning Mark's continuing connections with Marquette University Law School. The University Alumni Relations Office asks award winners to answer a few questions. We may know them well over here, but it is appropriate for others at the university to be thus introduced to the recipients. Anyway, one of the questions is, are you currently involved with Marquette in any way? If so, how? Mark could have pointed to any number of connections, including his financial support of various of our programs, but here's what he wrote. My primary current involvement with my law school, I like that phrase, my law school, is as a supervisor for the law school's internship program with the Wisconsin Elections Commission. When I was appointed to the WEC, I had little practical or legal experience with Wisconsin elections. I had successfully handled a recount for the first Latino elected alderman in Milwaukee, so I reached out to Professor Hammer to see if my law school would set up an internship program with the WEC. Our law school launched the program and has allowed me the opportunity to mentor quite a few law students, introduce them to people involved in elections and politics, and learn a lot of Wisconsin election law. Without Marquette's support, my job on the WEC would not be as fulfilling or successful. How great that Mark would turn this challenging public service into an opportunity to learn and to teach. Mark, would you please come forward? Mark, I have already given you an especially high compliment, I think, but I will elaborate briefly. You point to, among others, a great teacher in your life, the late Professor Jim Giardi of our class of 1942, who once himself received this award. Yet we learn now from you. You are, like so many great lawyers, a teacher, whether of juries, opponents, or the public at large. It is a great privilege to ask you to accept the award as Marquette University Law School's Alumnus of the Year.
Thank you for sharing your time with all of us on this very special evening. Thank you, Grace, my partner and wife, to all my family, dear friends, partners, and colleagues, all who have opened their homes to me, broken bread with me, and accompanied me on my life journey. Your presence will always be remembered and greatly appreciated. This award is like, wow. Dean, wow. But you know, it is really, truly an honor to receive this award at this point in history and from this institution. Recall, in 1523, a youthful Ignatius of Loyola, armed only with his notes of his exercises, was on the road to the Holy Land. He was the first general of the Society of Jesus, the order responsible for the creation and continuing success of this great university. His spiritual exercises have been published and read for nearly 5 centuries, and I know there are many here tonight that have ordered their lives accordingly. Now, on March 30th, 2023, under the direction of Pope Francis, the first Jesuit pope, the Holy See, with, in quotes, respect for the facts of history, close quotes, and in no uncertain terms, close quotes, declared that, in quotes, the Catholic Church repudiates those concepts that fail to recognize the inherent human rights of indigenous peoples. Including what has become known as the legal and political doctrine of discovery. Oh, what a liberating declaration, upholding the respect due every human being. Now, if Harriet Tubman was still standing on this side of the dirt, she would be the first to agree and thank Pope Francis, but would likely ask, with all due respect, what took you so long? The challenges to and opportunities for true human liberation lie directly before each of us every moment. And to think I, a high school dropout with a Lutheran background, was granted access to this noble tradition, given the keys to this great Jesuit law school's front door, trained by great professors, including the late Professor James Giardi, granted a work permit by and for James P. Maloney, a 3M'er, lucky enough to graduate and then be introduced to the late Judge John L. Coffey and serve as his law clerk at the 7th Circuit. Wow, again. I owe my legal career and any success I have accomplished to you. You gave me my law license, my sword of justice. I thank you, Marquette, and will do so as long as I can breathe. And on this day, in this week, we celebrate the life of Harry Belafonte, a giant in the battle for racial equality and for human rights. I ask you grant me leave to read the final stanzas from a prophetic poem written in 1936, a poem that a dear friend shared with me and that I read when I am weary. Let America be America again, by Langston Hughes. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where every man is free, the land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me. We made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Oh yes, I say it plain, America never was America to me. And yet I swear this oath, America will be. Thank you again for giving me years of wind in my sails. Peace.
Everyone, let's give our recipients one final round of applause. They've earned it. I would like to thank everyone for coming tonight to help us honor these outstanding Marquette lawyers. This is the conclusion of our program. Please feel free to stay, mingle, enjoy each other's company, and continue to grab an appetizer. Have a good evening, everyone.